welcome back to whispers in the dark. Turn down the lights, close the curtains, and listen carefully. If you hear bells outside your window, do not assume they belong to a sleigh. If you hear chains dragging over snow, do not tell yourself it is the wind catching some loose iron gate. And if, somewhere beyond the glass, you see a shape standing upright in the dark, with horns curling above its skull and steam rising from its mouth, do not open the door. This is not a Christmas story for children. This is a warning. Now let's begin. In the Austrian Alps, where the mountains rise like black teeth against the winter sky, there was a village. It sat at the end of a narrow road that twisted through pine forests and frozen ravines before dying at the foot of a ruined monastery. The village was old, older than most maps, older than the church bell that rang each morning from the square, older than the carved saints that watched from stone walls. In summer, the village looked almost beautiful. Geraniums spilled red from window boxes. Cows grazed on the slopes with bronze bells knocking gently against their necks. The river ran bright and clear over stones polished smooth by centuries. Tourists sometimes wandered in, bought honey, took pictures of the painted houses, and left before evening. But winter changed the village. Winter buried the road. Winter silenced the forest. Winter pressed against every window with white hands. When the sun disappeared behind the mountains, which happened early in December, the village became a bowl of shadow, and the mountains around it seemed to lean inward, listening. The old people said that the village was not built in a valley. It was built in a mouth. They said the mountain swallowed prayers, swallowed secrets, swallowed children who wandered too far after dusk. They said that on the 5th night of December, the night before St. Nicholas Day, something walked down from the high forest, something older than the church, something with hooves that cracked ice, horns that scraped branches, and a tongue red as fresh meat. Krampus. In the cities, people laughed about him. They wore costumes, shook bells, and ran through streets in parades. They drank warm wine and took photographs with men in fur suits and carved wooden masks. They called it tradition. They called it fun. In the village, every family hung a bundle of birch rods above the stove on the morning of December 5th. Every door was marked with chalk. Every child was washed, dressed, and made to kneel before the family table while parents whispered the old prayer, the one not printed in church books. Saint Nicholas, remember the gentle. Krampus, forget this house. Most years, nothing happened beyond the usual winter terrors. A goat found gutted in a shed. A dog that would not stop whimpering at the cellar door. Scratches in the snow where no animal tracks began or ended. Sometimes bells rang in the forest long after midnight, and the villagers lay stiff in their beds, breathing shallowly, pretending not to hear. Then came the winter of the red moon. It began with a boy named Lucas Gruber. Lucas was 11 years old, thin as a twig, with pale hair that stuck up no matter how his mother combed it, and eyes the color of wet slate. He lived with his mother, Marta, above the bakery on Kirkwick Lane, where the air always smelled of rye flour, smoke, and yeast. His father had died 2 winters earlier beneath a slide of mountain snow, leaving behind a cracked watch, a pair of boots, and a debt Marta never spoke of. Lucas had once been a gentle child. People remembered that. They remembered him holding beetles in his palm, crying when a hunter dragged a bleeding deer through the square, carrying bread crusts to the old woman who lived near the cemetery. But grief does strange work inside children. It hollows little tunnels through them. It gives shadows somewhere to live. By that December, Lucas had become cruel. At school, he whispered terrible things into younger children's ears and laughed when they cried. He stole coins from the church poor box, not because he needed them, but because he liked the sound they made in his pocket. He tied firecrackers to a stray cat's tail in autumn and watched it vanish, shrieking into the woodpile. When his mother found blood on his sleeve, he told her it was jam. Worst of all, he hated Anna Weiss. Anna was 9, small and quiet, with a cloud of dark curls and a limp from a fever she had survived as a baby. Her father carved saints and animals from linden wood. Her mother sang in the church choir. Anna walked slowly, and Lucas mocked the uneven rhythm of her steps. Tap, drag, tap, drag. On the morning of December 5th, he found her behind the schoolhouse, feeding crumbs to sparrows. Snow had begun falling in fine, dry grains, and the sky was the dull color of old pewter. The schoolmaster had gone inside to warm his hands. The other children were in the yard, chasing one another around a heap of frozen logs. Lucas came up behind Anna and snatched the small cloth bag of crumbs from her hand. "Give it back," she said. He held it high above her reach. "Maybe the birds should learn to walk like you," he said, dragging one foot behind him. Tap, drag, tap, drag. Anna's face went red, but she did not cry. That made Lucas angrier. He emptied the crumbs into the snow and ground them under his boot. "You are wicked," Anna whispered. The word landed strangely between them. "Wicked?" Lucas smiled, but it came out wrong, too wide, too sharp. "Then maybe Krampus will come for me tonight," he said. "Maybe I will invite him in. Maybe I will tell him your name." Anna stared at him, and for the first time, Lucas saw fear in her eyes. So he leaned close and whispered, "Anna Weiss. She limps, she cries, she smells like church wax." Then he spat into the snow at her feet and walked away. From the schoolhouse window, the schoolmaster saw only the end of it. He saw Anna bent over the ruined crumbs. He saw Lucas walking toward the village square with his hands in his pockets. He did not hear the words, but someone else did. At the edge of the schoolyard stood an old carved figure nailed to a post. It had been there for generations, weathered black by rain and snow. Some said it was a saint. Others said it was a warning. Its face had been worn nearly smooth, but two small horns still curved from its brow, and one split hoof remained visible beneath its ragged robe. That afternoon, as the last children left school, Anna looked back and saw something dark glisten in the figure's carved mouth. A tongue, long, red, wet. She ran home as fast as her bad leg allowed. By dusk, the village had prepared itself. Shutters were latched. Candles burned in windows. The church bell rang 5 times, though the hour was 6, and everyone pretended not to notice. Snow thickened until the houses looked like sleeping animals. Smoke rose straight from chimneys into the still air. In the bakery, Marta Gruber pulled the last loaves from the oven. Her hands were cracked from flour and cold water. Her face was tired in a way that made her look older than 34. She placed a loaf on the table for St. Nicholas, beside a cup of milk and a sprig of dried rosemary. Lucas sat near the stove, carving lines into the table with his father's pocket knife. "Stop that," Marta said. He kept carving. "Lucas." He looked up, and she felt a small chill move through her. His expression was not defiant. It was empty. She crossed the room and took the knife. He let her. "You know what night it is," she said. "Krampusnacht," Lucas replied. The word made the oven fire twitch low. Marta glanced at the window. Nothing there, but snow pressing softly against glass. "You will not speak lightly of him. Everyone speaks of him. Not like that." Lucas shrugged. Marta hated herself for what she did next, but fear had been walking beside her all day. She took the bundle of birch rods from above the stove and laid it on the table between them. The twigs had been painted gold by her mother years ago. Most of the paint had flaked away. The rods smelled faintly green, even though they had been dry for decades. "Tell me what you did today," she said. "Nothing. Tell me the truth." I said nothing. The house became very quiet. Then from somewhere far off, carried down through the chimney, came the faintest sound of bells. Not church bells. Smaller, ironed, uneven. Clink, clink, clink. Marta's face drained. She crossed herself with trembling fingers. "Go to your room," she whispered. Lucas listened. The bells came again, faint beneath the wind. Clink, clink, and under them, something heavier. A dragging sound, metal over stone. His pulse quickened, but not with fear. Not at first. With excitement. He stood. Marta grabbed his wrist. "Do not look outside." He smiled at her. "Why?" "Because some things look back." The sound faded. The house settled. Somewhere below, in the dark bakery, a loaf cracked as it cooled. Marta made Lucas kneel beside the table. She tried to make him pray, but the words would not stay in his mouth. He muttered them, twisted them, turned St. Nicholas into Saint Nothing, turned mercy into meat, turned blessing into bleeding. Marta slapped him before she knew she had raised her hand. The sound was small, but it seemed to echo through the walls. Lucas touched his cheek. His eyes changed. For a moment, Marta thought he might cry. Instead, he whispered, "He should take you." Then the bells rang directly outside the door. Marta froze. Lucas did too. 3 chimes. Slow, patient, then a knock. Not knuckles, not wood on wood. Horn on door. Once, twice, 3 times. The milk on the table trembled in its cup. Marta backed away, one hand over her mouth. The bakery below was silent. The street outside was silent. The whole village seemed to be holding its breath. The knock came again. This time the doorframe cracked. Lucas should have screamed. He should have run to his mother and buried his face in her apron. He should have remembered every story the old people told. Instead, he stepped toward the door. Marta lunged and caught him around the waist. "No," she hissed. "No, no, no." From the other side came a sound like a goat choking on laughter. Then a voice spoke through the wood. It was low and wet and full of gravel. It seemed to come from inside the walls, inside the stove, inside Lucas's own teeth. Lucas Gruber. Marta began to sob silently. The voice spoke again. "Little thief, little liar, little butcher of small things." Lucas's excitement curdled. The door bulged inward. A chain slid across the threshold outside. It made a scraping sound that raised goose flesh along Marta's arms. Bells shook once, twice, then fell still. "I brought the rods," the voice whispered. The birch bundle on the table snapped in half by itself. Marta screamed. The door burst open. Cold flooded the room. Snow blew in like ash. The thing standing there had to stoop beneath the doorway, and still its horns scraped the lintel. It was taller than any man, broad through the shoulders, covered in black matted hair, clotted with snow, mud, and old blood. Its face was something like a goat, and something like a burned corpse. Its snout was long and wrinkled. Its eyes were yellow, set deep beneath a brow of bone. Fangs jutted from its mouth in uneven rows, slick with ropes of saliva that steamed in the cold. Its tongue hung nearly to its chest. Long, red, restless, it licked the air and tasted the room. Around its neck hung rusted chains threaded with iron bells, some small as berries, others large as fists. Symbols had been scratched into the metal, old Christian crosses over older marks that looked like claws. In one hand, it carried a bundle of birch rods bound with gut. In the other, a woven basket blackened with age and lined inside with something that looked horribly like hair. One of its legs ended in a human foot, gray and cracked. The other ended in a cloven goat hoof. The hoof stepped into the room and burned a black crescent into the wooden floor. Marta threw herself between the creature and her son. "Please," she said, "please, he is a child." Krampus lowered its head. Its breath washed over her. It smelled of wet fur, candle smoke, rotten apples, and the deep sour stink of opened graves. "A child," it said. Its tongue brushed Marta's cheek. She gagged, a child with blood under his nails. Lucas stumbled backward until he hit the stove. Krampus turned those yellow eyes on him. For the first time in 2 years, Lucas wanted his father. The creature took one step forward. Marta seized the bread from the table and held it out with both hands. "Take this," she begged. "Take the offering, take anything." Krampus looked at the loaf. Then it opened its mouth impossibly wide and bit the bread, her fingers, and the plate in one crushing snap. Marta's scream tore through the house. Lucas saw red spray across the table. He saw his mother fall backward, clutching the ruined place where 2 fingers had been. He saw bits of porcelain embedded in Krampus's gums. The creature chewed slowly. Porcelain cracked, bone cracked. Marta's blood ran between the floorboards. Then Krampus laughed. That laugh woke every dog in the village. The village erupted in howls. Across the square, Herr Weiss slammed his shutters closed and pulled Anna away from the window. At the rectory, Father Anselm dropped his rosary into the fire. In the butcher's house, a new-born baby began screaming and would not stop for 3 hours. In the bakery, Krampus raised the birch rods. Marta crawled toward Lucas, leaving a dark smear behind her. "Run," she gasped. Lucas ran. He bolted through the rear room, down the narrow stairs, into the bakery where cooling bread sat in neat rows. The air was warm, thick with flour dust. Behind him, something heavy crashed through the ceiling. Plaster exploded. Boards cracked. Bells rang wildly. Krampus did not use the stairs. It came through the house. Lucas shoved open the back door and fell into the alley. Snow swallowed him to the knees. He scrambled up, sobbing now, and plunged toward the square. Behind him came the chain. It lashed around the corner and struck the wall beside his head, shattering stone. Iron links curled like a living serpent. Lucas threw himself forward as the chain snapped back into darkness. Then came the bells. Not faint now, not distant. They thundered through the alley, dozens of them clanging at once, each note slightly wrong, each one seeming to ring inside his skull. Lucas reached the square and screamed for help. Windows stayed dark. Doors stayed shut. He saw faces behind curtains. He saw his neighbors watching. No one opened. No one moved. He ran to the church. The doors were locked. He pounded with both fists. "Father Anselm, please open." Inside, candles flickered before the altar. He could see the priest standing in the aisle, pale as wax, hands clasped around the key. "Please," Lucas screamed. Father Anselm's lips moved. The church bell overhead gave one enormous groan, though nobody had touched the rope. From the alley behind Lucas came the scrape of hoof and foot. Tap, clop, tap, clop. A rhythm like Anna's limp turned into a funeral drum. Lucas turned. Krampus emerged from the snow. It filled the street. Its horns were tangled with strips of Marta's curtain. Its chest rose and fell. Blood darkened the fur around its mouth. In its basket, something shifted. Something small scratched at the woven sides from within. Luca's backed against the church doors. Krampus tilted its head. "Where are your friends, little wolf?" Lucas wept. "I am sorry." The creature's tongue slid out and curled, tasting the lie. "No." The chain shot forward and wrapped around Lucas's ankle. He screamed as iron burned through wool and skin. Krampus pulled once. Lucas hit the snow face first. His teeth cut through his lower lip. Blood filled his mouth, hot and salty. The chain dragged him across the square. He clawed at the snow. His fingernails broke. Red lines marked his path. He screamed for his mother, for the priest, for Saint Nicholas, for anyone. Then a door opened. Anna Weiss stood in the doorway of her father's workshop, wrapped in a shawl, face white with terror. Behind her, her mother cried out and tried to pull her back. "Leave him," Anna whispered. Krampus stopped. Slowly, very slowly, it turned toward her. The bells quieted. The whole village quieted with them. Anna stepped into the snow. Her bad leg trembled, but she did not fall. "Please," she said. "He is cruel, but do not take him." Lucas stared at her. Blood bubbled over his lip. Krampus sniffed the air. "You ask mercy for the mouth that wounded you." Anna nodded. The creature leaned down until its face was level with hers. Steam curled from its nostrils around her cheeks. "Mercy," it said, as if tasting a foreign word. Anna's father appeared behind her, holding a carving knife. His hands shook so violently, the blade flashed in the candlelight. Krampus glanced at the knife and smiled. It reached into its basket. The scratching inside became frantic. The creature pulled out a child's shoe. Small, frozen, still holding the shape of a foot, no longer inside it. It dropped the shoe at Anna's feet. "Mercy fills baskets," Krampus said. "Justice empties them." Then it whipped the chain. The iron links struck Herr Weiss across the face. His cheek opened from ear to mouth. Teeth spilled into the snow like yellow seeds. He collapsed without a sound. Anna screamed. Her mother dragged her backward, but Krampus moved faster. The chain coiled around Anna's waist and pulled her into the square. Lucas watched in horror as she hit the snow beside him. "No," he sobbed. "No, take me, take me." Krampus crouched between them. Its yellow eyes gleamed. "Both." Then the church doors burst open. Father Anselm stood there in his vestments, holding the golden staff used in the Saint Nicholas procession. He had put on the bishop's mitre, though it sat crooked on his head. His face was gray. His knees shook, but he stepped into the snow. "Release them," he commanded. Krampus turned. For one heartbeat, every candle in every window burned blue. Father Anselm raised the staff. "In the name of Saint Nicholas, patron of children, servant of Christ, guardian of the innocent, Release them. Krampus stared at him. Then it began to laugh. The laugh deepened until snow slid from rooftops and the church windows cracked. Your saint is late, Krampus said. Father Anselm swallowed. He comes at dawn. Krampus's grin widened. Dawn comes for the good. The creature yanked the chain. Lucas and Anna screamed as they were dragged toward it. Father Anselm rushed forward and struck the chain with the golden staff. The staff snapped. The sound was not loud, but it broke something in the night. The sky above turned red. Not pink, not amber, red. The moon rose over the mountain, swollen and stained. And every bell around Krampus's neck began to ring by itself. The creature stood to its full height. For the first time, the villagers saw what hung from the hooks embedded in its back. Not ornaments, not trophies, masks, children's faces, dried and shriveled, stretched over little wooden frames, their mouths open as if still begging. Some were old enough to have turned black. Some were fresh enough that their eyelashes remained. The villagers began to scream behind their doors. Krampus lifted Father Anselm by the throat. The priest kicked helplessly, boots scraping the snow. Please, he choked. Krampus brought him close. You locked the door. Then it bit into the priest's face. It did not kill him quickly. It ate the soft parts first. The cheeks, the lips, the nose, the tongue when it tried to pray. Father Anselm's muffled screams became wet, bubbling sounds. Blood poured down the front of his vestments and splashed over the snow in steaming bursts. Krampus chewed with slow pleasure, eyes half closed, while Lucas and Anna lay chained at its feet, unable to look away. When the priest finally stopped moving, Krampus threw him against the church doors so hard that his body split the wood and hung there, folded backward, arms twitching like a broken puppet. Then the creature lowered its gaze to the children. Anna was crying silently. Lucas was not crying anymore. Something had broken in him, but something else had woken. He looked at Anna, at the blood on her dress, at her father groaning in the doorway, with half his face hanging loose, at the priest's body in the church door. This is my fault, he whispered. Krampus heard. Its ears twitched. Lucas looked at the creature. Let her go. Krampus said nothing. I am the wicked one. I did all of it. I hurt her. I stole. I lied. I killed the cat. I hated everyone because my father died, and I wanted everyone else to feel something bad too. Anna turned toward him. Lucas, she whispered. He swallowed blood. Let her go. Krampus leaned closer. What will you give? Lucas thought of his mother bleeding in the bakery. He thought of his father under snow. He thought of the old stories, the birch rods, the basket, the children taken below. He closed his eyes. May. The bells stopped. Krampus studied him. The red moon shone on its horns. Then it reached down and stroked Lucas's hair with one claw. Good, it whispered. Now you are honest. It unlocked the chain from Anna. For one breath, hope existed. Then Krampus grabbed Lucas by the back of the coat and shoved him headfirst into the basket. The inside was not empty. Hands seized him. Tiny hands, cold hands, some with fingernails, some without, some slick with old rot. They pulled at his hair, his ears, his lips. Children whispered in the dark all around him. You came, you came, you came. Lucas screamed and kicked, but the basket stretched deeper than it should have. He fell into blackness that smelled of soil, sour milk, and decay. Above him, the opening shrank. He saw Anna's face, horrified and tear-streaked. Then Krampus looked down into the basket, its tongue unrolled, wet and red, and curled around Lucas's cheek. Not yet, it said. The lid slammed shut. Outside, Anna scrambled away through the snow. Her mother caught her and dragged her into the workshop. The door slammed. Bolts shot home. Krampus stood alone in the square, beneath the red moon. For a moment, it seemed the horror might end. Then the bakery exploded. Not with fire, with bodies. The front windows burst outward, and from the darkness, inside came things that had once been people. They crawled on hands and knees, dragging broken limbs behind them. Their eyes were gone, replaced with black pits full of frost. Their mouths hung open, and from each throat came the same sound. Bells, tiny bells ringing from inside their chests. Marta Gruber came first. Her hand was a red stump wrapped in strips of apron. Her jaw had been pulled too wide, unhinged like a trap. Her eyes stared at nothing. She crawled into the snow and lifted her ruined face toward the houses. Open, she whispered. Her voice was not hers. Open for the children. Behind her came old Herr Keller, who had died 10 years before and been buried near the cemetery wall. Soil fell from his sleeves. Worms writhed in his beard. His ribs showed through his coat, and something had tied tiny bells to each exposed bone. Then came others. The dead, children who had vanished in winters no one spoke of. A girl in a night dress stiff with ice. A boy with no feet. A baby wrapped in a sack dark with frozen blood. A woman with hair full of grave dirt, and a wedding ring embedded in the swollen flesh of her finger. The village had not forgotten them. Krampus had kept them, and now he had brought them home. They spread through the square, crawling, limping, dragging. At every door they knocked, not with fists, with teeth, with foreheads, with exposed bones. Inside the houses, families huddled beneath tables and beds. They whispered prayers. They covered children's mouths. They listened as dead loved ones called their names in voices full of bells. At the butcher's house, Frau Mia heard her brother, who had drowned in the river when they were children. Greta, he sang softly from outside. I am cold. She pressed both hands over her ears. Greta, open. I brought your doll. Something scratched at the shutters. Inside the carpenter's house, A dead child whispered, "Papa, why did you stop looking for me?" The carpenter began to sob so hard his wife had to slap him to keep him quiet. At the Weiss workshop, Anna knelt beside her father, pressing cloth to his ruined face. Her mother barred the door with a workbench. Outside, something dragged itself along the wall. Tap, drag, tap, drag. Anna stopped breathing. Her mother looked at her. "What is it?" Anna shook her head. The tapping stopped at the door. Then Lucas's voice whispered from outside. "Anna." Her mother's eyes widened. "Do not answer. Anna, please." Anna crawled backward. "I am cold in here." Her father made a wet groaning sound. The voice continued. "There are others. They are biting me. They are pulling pieces off. Please let me in." Anna sobbed into her sleeve. Her mother clutched her so tightly it hurt. The door creaked. Something pressed against it from the other side. The hinges strained. The workbench slid an inch. "Anna," Lucas whispered, "you said I was wicked. You were right, but I am scared." Anna closed her eyes. For one terrible moment, she almost opened the door. Then another voice spoke. "Lower, wetter, closer. Mercy fills baskets." Anna screamed. Krampus slammed one horn through the door. Wood burst inward. The horn withdrew slowly, leaving a ragged hole. Through it, Anna saw one yellow eye. Her mother grabbed the carving knife from the floor and held it toward the door. Krampus breathed through the hole. The room filled with the stink of slaughter. Anna's father, barely conscious, lifted one shaking hand. On the table beside him lay a half-carved figure of Saint Nicholas, unfinished, its wooden face still blank. He pointed to it. Anna understood. She crawled beneath the table, reached up, and took the carving. It was smooth and pale. Her father had not yet carved the eyes. He had not yet painted the robe. But the shape of the staff was there, the mitre, the hand raised in blessing. Anna clutched it to her chest. Outside, Krampus began to sing. It was not a song in any language she knew. It sounded like stones grinding under a river. It sounded like a lullaby sung by something buried alive. As it sang, the chains outside began moving on their own, sliding through the hole in the door, links curling across the floor like black snakes. Anna's mother hacked at them with the knife. Sparks flew. The blade snapped. The chains wrapped around her wrist. She screamed as the iron tightened and smoked against her skin. Anna leapt forward and pressed the wooden Saint Nicholas to the chain. The iron recoiled. Krampus stopped singing. For a moment, nothing moved. Then the creature whispered, "Little lamb." Anna held up the carving with both hands. Her voice shook, but she spoke the prayer every child in the village knew. "Saint Nicholas, remember the gentle." The yellow eye vanished from the hole. The chains withdrew. Silence fell. Then Krampus laughed from the roof. The ceiling split open. A hoof came through first. Then a claw. Then the long red tongue pushing between the boards like a searching worm. It wrapped around the hanging oil lamp and crushed it. Darkness swallowed the workshop. Anna screamed as the roof collapsed. Snow, splinters, tiles, and black fur crashed down. The workbench shattered. Her mother disappeared beneath beams. Her father's cot overturned. The carved animals along the shelves flew into the room like startled birds. Krampus landed in the middle of it all. Anna found herself beneath the table, half buried in snow and broken wood. The wooden saint was still in her hands. Blood ran from a cut above her eye. Krampus sniffed. The basket on its back shook. From inside came Lucas's voice, faint and ragged. Anna, do not. Krampus reached beneath the wreckage and pulled Anna's mother out by the ankle. She was alive, gasping, one arm twisted backward in a way no arm should bend. Krampus lifted her and inspected her as a butcher inspects meat. Anna's mother spat in its face. Krampus blinked. Then it smiled. It hooked one claw into her mouth and pulled. Anna shut her eyes, but she could not shut her ears. The sound was wet and tearing and full of her mother's muffled screaming. Something struck the floor beside Anna's hand. She looked despite herself. A tooth, then another, then a strip of gum. Krampus made Anna listen until the screaming stopped. When Anna opened her eyes, her mother lay folded in the snow, face opened, hair spread around her like black seaweed. Krampus crouched. Anna backed away, clutching the carving. The creature pointed one claw at the wooden saint. Wood does not save. Anna whispered, no. Krampus tilted its head. No, no, she said again, louder though her voice shook. But memory does. The creature's grin faded. Anna thought of every warning, every prayer, every bundle of birch rods hanging above every stove, every child taught to fear wickedness. She thought of Lucas. She thought of the priest locking the door. She thought of the villagers hiding while others suffered. Maybe Krampus did not come because children were wicked. Maybe he came because adults taught fear instead of goodness. Maybe the basket was never full of the worst children. Maybe it was full of the ones nobody saved. Anna crawled toward her father. He was still alive, barely. His breath rattled through his torn mouth. His eyes found hers. He pointed again, not at the carving, but at the wall behind her. There, beneath a shelf of wooden angels, hung his tools. Anna grabbed the smallest chisel. Krampus watched, amused. She pressed the blade to the blank face of Saint Nicholas and carved one eye. Her hands shook. The cut was ugly. Splinters tore her palm. Krampus rose. She carved the second eye. The creature lunged. Anna raised the carving. The wooden eyes opened. Not fully, not like human eyes, but the shadows within the carved sockets deepened, and a pale light spilled from them, soft as candle flame behind frost. Krampus recoiled with a roar. The light grew. In the square, The crawling dead turned their faces toward the workshop. At every door, the knocking stopped. The bells inside the corpses fell silent. Krampus snarled, "He is late." Anna held the carving high. "Then I will wait." The red moon flickered. Far away, beyond the mountain, a church bell rang. One clear note, then another, then another, from somewhere beyond the storm. Somewhere dawn had already touched. Krampus screamed. It was the sound of an animal in a trap, a demon at a threshold, a winter thing feeling the first blade of morning. Its chains whipped wildly, smashing shelves, walls, beams. One link caught Anna across the shoulder, tearing cloth and skin. She fell, but she did not let go of the carving. The basket on Krampus's back burst open. Children spilled out. Not bodies, not exactly. Shadows of children. Pale shapes with hollow eyes and frost in their hair. Some crawled, some floated, some stood on legs broken long ago. Lucas tumbled among them, alive, but changed, his skin gray with cold, his hair streaked white. He saw Anna, then he saw Krampus. The creature reached for him. Lucas bit its hand. Krampus howled. The other children swarmed. They climbed its legs. They clung to its fur. They shoved fingers into its eyes, its mouth, the wounds beneath its chains. They were weak, but there were many, so many. All the children taken in all the winters the village had endured and denied. Krampus thrashed. A chain split one ghost child in half, but the halves crawled back together. A hoof crushed another into frost dust, but the dust rose and screamed into the creature's ears. The bells on Krampus's neck rang backward, each sound pulling more shadows from the basket, more faces from the masks on its back. Anna crawled to Lucas. He was shaking so violently, his teeth clattered. "I am sorry," he whispered. "I know," she said. Krampus tore children from its body and flung them into walls. The workshop collapsed further. The red moon dimmed. The church bells beyond the mountain grew louder. Lucas looked at the chains around Krampus's neck. "They bind him," he said. Anna followed his gaze. The old stories said the chains were symbols. But symbols could become tools if enough people believed. The chains crossed over the creature's chest, looped around its shoulders, and threaded through bells scratched with crosses and claw marks. Krampus wore them like trophies, but they bit into its flesh. Beneath them, the fur was raw. Anna handed Lucas the chisel. He stared at it. "I cannot." "You can." He crawled toward the creature. Krampus saw him too late. Lucas drove the chisel into the soft flesh beneath the largest chain. Black blood sprayed across his face. Krampus shrieked and swung one arm. Claws raked Lucas from shoulder to hip. His coat and skin opened. He fell without a sound, red spreading beneath him. Anna screamed his name, but the chain loosened. The ghost children seized it. Together they pulled. Krampus staggered. The chain tightened around its throat. bells rang so loud every window shattered. The villagers cried out. Doors flew open. People stumbled into the square, covering their ears. They saw the dead. They saw the ruined church. They saw the broken workshop glowing with pale light. And they saw Anna Weiss, 9 years old, limping through blood and snow with a wooden saint in her hands. "Help us," she screamed. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Marta Gruber crawled from the bakery. She was bleeding, broken, half dead, but she was herself again. She looked at the villagers with hatred more terrible than any demon's face. "Help them," she rasped, "or give him your children too." That moved them. The butcher came first with a meat hook. The carpenter came with an axe. Frau Mia came with a poker from her stove. Others followed, ashamed and terrified, but coming. They grabbed the chains. Krampus roared. Its tongue lashed out and wrapped around the butcher's neck. With one jerk, it tore his throat open. Blood sprayed steaming over the snow. Frau Mia screamed and drove the poker into the creature's tongue. It shriveled back, smoking. The carpenter swung his axe into a horn. The horn cracked. Krampus struck him down and split his skull like a dropped egg. Still the villagers pulled. More hands joined. Living hands. Dead hands. Children's hands. The chains tightened. Krampus stumbled backward into the square. The red moon above it shrank, paling at the edges. The mountain wind began to blow from the east, carrying the first gray hint of morning. Krampus looked at Anna. For the first time, she saw fear in its eyes. Not fear of death, fear of being remembered correctly. Not as a joke, not as a costume, not as an excuse for adults to frighten children into obedience. As hunger, as punishment without mercy, as the thing that comes when cruelty is allowed to grow in warm rooms, while everyone pretends not to see. The chains pulled tighter. Krampus's knees buckled. Its cloven hoof cracked the frozen ground. Beneath the square, something opened. A black pit split the snow, widening between the cobblestones. Heat rose from it, not warm but foul, like breath from a diseased lung. Inside were voices, thousands of them, laughing, weeping, calling names. The smell that came up was worse than rot. It was old fear, old guilt, old sins left to ferment under the world. Krampus dug its claws into the stones. No, it growled. The villagers pulled. The dead children pulled. Lucas, bleeding out beside the workshop, lifted one shaking hand and wrapped it around the chain. Anna put down the wooden saint and gripped the lynx beside him. Krampus slid toward the pit. Its claws tore furrows through stone. It spat curses. It promised secrets. It spoke in the voices of lost fathers, dead mothers, crying infants. Every villager heard the voice that would hurt them most. Marta heard her husband under the avalanche, begging her to dig faster. Anna heard her mother calling from the wreckage, though her mother was already dead. Lucas heard himself as he had been, cruel and laughing. telling him nothing mattered. Still they pulled. The first sunlight touched the church steeple. Krampus caught fire. Not flame like wood. Not bright, clean fire. Its fur smoked. Its skin blistered. Black blood boiled from its eyes. The masks on its back screamed as they curled and peeled away. Bells melted into its flesh. The chains glowed red. It reared up one last time. Its tongue snapped forward and wrapped around Anna's ankle. Lucas saw, with the last of his strength. He grabbed the chisel from the snow and drove it through the tongue into the cobblestones. Krampus shrieked. Anna kicked free. The pit widened. The creature fell. For one impossible second, it hung there, half in the world and half below it, horns scraping the edge, claws reaching for anything. Its yellow eyes locked on Anna. Next winter, it whispered. Anna picked up the wooden Saint Nicholas. Its carved eyes glowed softly. No, she said, not if we remember. Then the chain snapped tight. Krampus was pulled into the dark. The pit closed with the sound of a mouth shutting. Silence fell. The red moon vanished. Dawn came pale and cold over the mountains. For a long time, nobody spoke. Snow drifted through broken roofs and shattered windows. Blood steamed on the square. The dead children stood in a ring around the place where the pit had been. One by one, they turned toward the sunrise. Their faces changed. Not healed, not happy, but peaceful. They faded like breath on glass. Lucas lay beside Anna, his blood dark in the snow. Marta crawled to him and gathered him into her arms. She had no fingers left on one hand. Her face was streaked with blood and flour. She rocked him like a baby. I am sorry, Lucas whispered. Marta pressed her lips to his forehead. I know. He looked at Anna. Did I empty the basket? Anna took his cold hand. Some of it. He tried to smile. Then he died. The village buried 37 people that week. They buried Father Anselm without his face. They buried Anna's mother beneath the linden tree behind the workshop. They buried Herr Weiss months later, after fever took what Krampus had left of him. They buried Lucas beside his father, and Marta placed the broken chisel on his grave. The officials from the city came when the road cleared. They wrote reports about avalanche damage, gas explosions, wild animal attacks, shared hysteria. They collected statements. They looked at the cracked stones in the square and the black crescent burned into the bakery floor and did not write those things down. By spring, the village tried to continue. People repaired roofs. They baked bread. They planted flowers. They rang the church bell again, though it never sounded quite right. Children returned to school. Anna walked with a deeper limp, and a scar crossed her shoulder where the chain had struck her. She spoke less than before, but every December 5th, the village changed. No one locked their doors against crying children. No one ignored cruelty and called it play. No one laughed when the old stories were told. Each family still hung birch rods above the stove, but not as a threat, as a promise to correct harm before it grew horns, a promise to protect the gentle, a promise never again to leave a child outside in the snow. Anna became a carver like her father. Her saints were strange, people said. Their eyes were too knowing, their faces too sad. She carved Saint Nicholas every winter, always with one hand raised, always watching the door. But she carved Krampus too. Not cute, not funny, not for markets, not for tourists. She carved him as he was, half goat, half demon, one human foot and one cloven hoof, horned, hairy, fanged, with a tongue long enough to taste lies before they were spoken, chains around his neck, bells on his breast, birch rods in one hand, a basket on his back. Inside the basket, she carved faces, small faces, waiting. Years passed. The village became a place people whispered about. The road improved. Visitors came again. Some wanted beauty, some wanted fear. They bought postcards. They asked where the Krampus run would be held. They laughed and drank warm wine in the square. Anna, grown old by then, watched them from her workshop window. One December 5th, a man from Vienna came to buy a carving. He was broad, red-faced, wearing an expensive coat and a smile that never reached his eyes. With him was his son, a boy of about 10, who kicked at Anna's old dog when he thought no one was watching. Anna saw. The boy saw her see. He smiled, not with shame, with pleasure. The man chose a Krampus, carving from the shelf. "This one is marvelous," he said. "So grotesque. My clients will love it." Anna said, "It is not for decoration." The man laughed. "Everything is for decoration, if the price is right." His son wandered near the stove, where a bundle of birch rods hung above the fire. "What are those?" the boy asked. "A reminder," Anna said. The boy pulled one rod free and snapped it. The sound cracked through the room. Anna went still. Outside, the sky had darkened early. Snow tapped softly at the window. The village church bell began ringing, though no one had pulled the rope. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The man frowned. "Is there a service?" Anna looked at the boy. The boy looked back, still smiling. From far up in the forest came a faint sound. Clink, clink, clink. The smile left the boy's face. His father did not hear it yet. Anna did. She had heard it in dreams for 70 years. The old woman crossed the room and locked her door. The man laughed nervously. "What are you doing?" Anna took the broken birch rod from the boy's hand. "Remembering," she said. The bells came closer. Clink, clink, clink. Chains dragged over stone beneath the snow. The dog crawled under the table and whimpered. The boy began to cry. Anna looked toward the window, where darkness pressed close to the glass. For one moment, she saw nothing. Only snow. Only her own reflection. An old woman with white hair, a scar across one shoulder, and eyes that had watched hell open in a village square. Then something breathed on the other side. The glass fogged. A long red tongue slid up the pane, leaving a shining streak. The man screamed. Anna closed her eyes and whispered the prayer. Saint Nicholas, remember the gentle. Krampus, forget this house. Outside, the bells stopped. A horn tapped once against the door, then twice, then 3 times, and somewhere inside the old carving on the shelf, the children in the basket began to whisper. If you heard this story to the end, then take the warning with you. The old world does not vanish simply because people laugh at it. Some legends survive because they are fed. Some monsters wear fur and horns. Others wear human faces, sit at family tables, and learn very young that nobody will stop them. Thank you for listening. If this nightmare kept you listening until the end, leave a like, subscribe for more dark folklore and horror stories, and share this with someone who thinks old legends cannot hurt them. Sleep carefully. Good night.
Whispers of a love so true, painting dreams of me and you. And I'll hold you close in this moment.